This is a weekly reading, and we are moving into the energy of July and what this is bringing in for us in our evolution process. My name is Carolyn Marie Yakopich. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe so that we can stay connected and you can receive more content like this. So July is bringing in a really beautiful, expansive energy. The energy and the frequency of this month is a 7 when we look at numerology, and 7 is our aura. It is our magnetic field. Our magnetic field is what presents who we are before we even open our mouth. Our magnetic field is what allows in whatever it is we are experiencing internally. So it is a direct reflection. It's that mystery school teaching, as within, so without. And so the stronger our magnetic field is, the stronger our aura is, the more vital we are, the more empowered we are, and the more open we are in our hearts. So our heart is directly linked to how expansive we are. And if you think about that, right, when you have an experience of illness, when you have an experience of emotions that are feeling a little challenging, so sadness, depression, anger, resentment, it's like all of these emotions tense up the physicality, tense up our breath, tense up our body. And as we're tensing up and we're getting into that state of basically moving into the fight or flight response in the body, right? Our central nervous system is shifting and changing, and we get into this state of feeling like we are in danger. So from that space, we're pulling from our own magnetic field, we're pulling from our energy, and we're contracting, right? So our magnetic field gets smaller every time we contract, every time we feel resistance, every time we feel fear, we start to contract. And then from that state of contraction, our focus narrows on everything that's going on within ourselves. So then we can miss opportunities. We can miss things that are right in front of us for us to evolve, for us to elevate. So the invitation this month, as we enter July, is to really relax and relax and relax. Relax will get you to your heart. Pausing will get you to your heart, right? So the more you can get into that state of relaxation, the more you can, feel the expansion, open up. And so it is really about being mindful of what we are feeling emotionally and making the shifts and changes necessary in order to expand more. Now, our feelings are something that are meant to be felt, because if we don't feel them and we pretend that they're not there, or we spiritual bypass and say like, okay, well, I don't want to deal with that anger. Let me go out and do something that makes me happy, right? Sometimes, yes, it's great to go out and shift the energy. However, if there's something that is coming up for you to release, be with it. Allow yourself to feel the feelings of it without getting stuck in it, right? That is the key. So in order to give forth or forgive, it is necessary for us to actually feel and let it flow through and transform. And when that emotion transforms, it returns into energy. It returns into that motion of the next experience and the next experience. And so ideally, what we want to do is come into a space of acceptance. And through self-acceptance, we will come into a state of knowing what we need for ourselves. So before we can even get into being accepting of where we are at, meeting ourselves where we are at in this moment in time, awareness is the first key to that. So from self-awareness to self-acceptance. When we accept where we're at, we can then make a choice because we're no longer in resistance. We're no longer pushing things away. We're no longer contracting our energy and resisting and wanting something different. We are in acceptance. Acceptance is like allowing. We feel a different energy when we accept. So when we accept where we're at, we can then make a choice of what to do, what we need to do in order to take care, to nurture ourselves. So we are also in the Cancer season right now. We just had a new moon in Cancer. Jupiter is in Cancer. Until July of 2026, Cancer is the mother archetype. The mother nurtures. It's not about force, push, hustle. It's about, what do I need? What does my body require to soften, to relax, to be fully open, to allow my heart to open, right? Themes of the heart: unconditional love, forgiveness. So as you come into the space of self-care, true self-care, resting when your body is screaming at you. And if you can start to get so aware that you don't get to that scream, you're making leaps and bounds. Because most of us have been programmed to push, force, hustle, to go to our goals, to do the things we want to do, or to get that one more task done, because if we could just get it done today, then tomorrow we'll have some free time. But the list never ends. It really doesn't. So it really is about catching it before it gets so loud that we either get run down, exhausted, burnt out, or we get an illness, because that's what happens. So the other fascinating thing about the aura, our magnetic field that surrounds the body in all directions, is that when we are going to get sick, before it even enters our physical body, it enters our aura. So maybe you've had this experience, most of us have, where you say to someone, I feel like I'm coming down with something. Like I feel like almost like I have a sore throat, or like my body's really like getting a little sore. And then it's like, if we don't listen to those cues, because that is the cue from your magnetic field, that is the frequency coming in, that is your energy telling you, this is here. Please look at me. Please move or do something about this. Not move, but rest. Please take care. Because if we don't take care, then it comes into our physical body and then we get sick. And then it's like the body's way of saying, okay, you're not going to take care of me. I need to stop. So I'm going to make you stop, right? So we have these stages of self-awareness that leads to self-acceptance of where we're at. From that place of acceptance, without resistance, we can choose what to do in order to take care, self-care. And the more that we move into that space of self-care, the more we can see our patterns and our programs and all of the habits that we have that are holding us in this, I always say, this hamster wheel. It's like the karma, right? It's holding us in that holding pattern, right? So when we are stuck in this holding pattern and we start to have more awareness, more acceptance, more self-care, we're slowing down. Our body is starting to communicate with us because we are now more aware and more present with our own bodies. And when we start to see these habits, behaviors, beliefs, programs, patterns that we're playing out that are leading us into whatever the result is that we don't want to experience, we can catch it. And when we can catch it and we can see it as a witness, because now we're present. So when we're present, we are literally creating space between us and our experiences as a witness. We're in a neutral space without getting animated into the experience, without getting wrapped up in judgment. We are simply observing. And when we create that space and we observe and we become the witness, we can see what our potential choices would be that we would have made in the past, because it is our body's way of holding the stored emotions, the stored programs, to just want to jump back into the old ways, to jump back into the familiar, right? And when we can pause and come into our presence before we take any action, we can start to forgive ourselves. We can see the role that we play in our own suffering. We can take full responsibility for our change. And through this change, through this decision to forgive, we are opening to our own evolution. And when we forgive, our hearts open naturally. And as we start to move through this self-forgiveness, we become more expansive. And again, when we are more expansive and more open and more relaxed, our magnetic field becomes stronger. When we release the emotions from our past that are holding us in that pattern, they start to transform into energy, release out through the body and into our aura, which expands our aura even more. And now we are holding within this invisible field a magnetism through our awareness to attract exactly what we want. Because now we are present, now we are in soul alignment, now we are feeling the connection again. And that is a much different space to be in than being in disconnection. Disconnection from spirit and not hearing our intuition, not being open, feeling like we need to figure it all out from the mind space, which is not bringing us into our full embodied potential. So once we forgive and we open into this space and our heart is relaxed and we are more expansive, we can start to really intentionally send into the field what it is that we want to create. And of course, from this highest expression, from the intention of the greater good for our soul's evolution and the greater good for all. And as we intentionally send forth and broadcast our frequency, we magnetically draw it to us. And it's not about sending that frequency out, sending our intention out, and then thinking about it again and again and again and again and being like, it's not here yet, it's not here yet. I really want this really badly. And what about this, this, and this? And trying to manipulate the how or the when, because that doesn't work. The how and the when are not up to us. They never have been. So when we can intentionally broadcast our goals, our dreams, our visions, and then let them go. Hand them over to God, Goddess, hand them over to the universe, hand them over to Source, and take from that space the openness to receive that next aligned step. And that is what we do. We take the next aligned step. And that is all that is required. And we may receive this next aligned step through a thought and then a synchronicity that confirms the thought. We think about something or we have an idea and then someone else is talking about that idea or they mention something very similar to us and it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, there's something here for me. There's something here for me to move into. And the more we trust that guidance, the more we open to self-love, and then our heart expands even more. Because the more we trust our intuition, the more we receive the guidance, the more we trust our intuition, the more we are soul aligned on our path, and the more we are experiencing the blessings and the magic and the miracles of everyday life. We are meant to be joyful. We are meant to be thriving. We are meant to feel and be abundant in all areas of our life. And July really is this frequency of joy, of elevation. The theme of July, the theme of the aura is the platform of elevation, platform of levitation, lifting ourselves up. What can I do to light myself up? And then from this space of being lit up, I'm lighting everybody else up around me because I am in my energy, in my expansiveness, in my joy, in my inspiration. And just feeling that openness is so, I just want to say juicy. It really is. It feels so good. It feels so good to be open and expansive and just free in our body and feeling that liberation. And true liberation comes from when we hand it over without holding on to what our visions are, without holding on to the timing of anything, and just handing it over and really being aware enough to receive, relaxed enough to receive. And then we receive the next step, and the next step, and the next step. And suddenly we are at the destination. And it looks even more magnificent than we could have ever imagined for ourselves. Or we get guided to another path. And that is more magnificent than what we actually originally imagined as the outcome. So it really is asking us to come into this space of openness, expansiveness, relaxation for the month of July. To be open to receive, and not only receive, but it is really about our frequency, what is happening internally, right? So yes, receive, open, relaxed. And also, what am I broadcasting out through my aura? How open can I be? How much can I move from a space of love? One of the quotes from Kundalini Yoga, if I can't see God in all, I can't see God at all. You can change that word with anything you want. If you can't see goddess in all, you can't see goddess in all. If you can't see the divine in all, you can't see divine at all. Right? We are all here as divine expressions, uniquely blueprinted to co-create. So we have this opportunity now to create, to light ourselves up, have some fun, do what brings you joy. July is this month of lightness and buoyancy. And yes, we can always experience the polar opposite, right? It's the law of polarity. Everything has its opposite. So it really comes to how we choose to show up. And we can only choose consciously when we are aware. So that is the first step, self-awareness. So backing up to these principles here, self-awareness brings us into self-acceptance. Self-acceptance brings us into self-care. Self-care brings us into self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness brings us into self-trust. Self-trust brings us into self-love. So these are 6 keys that I work with my clients, the women I work with. And they are keys to our evolution. And they are so potent, so powerful, and so simple to apply, right? So awareness is the first step to consciously co-create in our divinity. Sure, we can create unconsciously and keep experiencing the same things again and again and again. And we can complain about what we're experiencing. We can stay in those feelings that limit us. We can, yeah, just wallow in it. We can go into a downward spiral and just decide to stay in our suffering unconsciously, thinking that it's all happening to us, that this is my fate. Oh, this always happens, right? All the stories that we tell ourselves, right? This month is really about seeing the soul, moving beyond the story and into the soul. It really is. And from the soul, our heart opens. Our heart opens and our soul comes online. And now we are consciously co-creating in our divinity, in our sovereignty, knowing our birthright to be fully abundant, to be fully joyful, and to be inspired.